Welcome, everyone, to the 307 podcast. We're back again, and Blake lost at another PT again this morning.
Listen.
What's your dang excuse? Oh,
Listen, Chad beat me at this workout by like maybe 20 seconds or so.
hold on,
and
Brooke,
I
do
said-
you CrossFit?
I don't.
You don't?
No.
Okay.
I said, oh, good job, retired Navy SEAL, no kids, works out 3 times a day, ultra-marathon runner. You beat old dad bod Blake by 20 seconds, son. You're doing
man.
good. You need to push harder in there. Just because you win don't mean you get to slack. I seen you over there looking around, seeing where everyone else was at. You need to put your head down and just get the dang work done and quit worrying about what everyone else is doing.
I've told you guys before, it's lonely at the top, man. Like, the only way you get better is if there's someone around you that's better than you and will push you to get better.
Yeah,
It was just like that. Look, Brooke, I won a 5K. It seems like I win every 5K I go to. I won a 5K. I'm not even a 5Ker.
You wait till I have David Goggins out to do the CrossFit workout with us.
Yeah, right. Look, I won the 5K on Saturday, and my time was 19:10. I could have done much better if there would have been somebody there, like even close to me. Like I looked behind me coming back. I'm like, man, I could run a little. I think I could probably push a little. I look back, nobody even in sight. That's a problem, man.
That's bad integrity. If you could do more and you don't just because no one else is there, that's something.
Whatever,
That's something deeper wrong.
Whatever.
Right there. Deeper wrong. Anyways, we've got a guest here today. We don't want to hear you banter too much today.
I was just saying you lost again, man.
This is usually my favorite part of the podcast anyway, so
Hey, Brooke,
I'm just sitting back.
pull that mic up closer to your mouth there.
Okay.
These things are very directional.
Got it.
They're very directional, which is good in a way because they don't pick up ambient sound. But if you don't talk right into them, they're low. Thank you, Brooke.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, we do have a guest today, Miss Brooke Robertson. But no kin to the Duck Dynasty people. We just hashed that out. No kin there. From about the same geographical location, though, right?
Yeah, just like I think 3 or 4 hours south
What's
of them.
What's happening down in South Louisiana these days?
Nothing. Hurricanes.
Oh, my God.
That's about it. I was driving up here and I'm like, man, this is just way prettier. I mean, Louisiana's home. I'm not talking bad about it, but it's just beautiful up here. The mountains,
Yeah.
nothing like it.
You were just in Tennessee, right?
I was. Nashville part, but
How was that?
it was good. I had a show out there in Knoxville. So
So what does that look like? What does a show look like for you?
It's all usually different. This is the first time I actually sang at an amphitheater, which was probably the coolest venue I've ever sang in. Just the acoustics was amazing. But this one was a pretty large venue that I sang at. But sometimes it's churches, small little country town churches. Sometimes it's big churches.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever takes me out, really.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Man.
it's pretty cool.
It sounds like it's like a speaking engagement, but better.
It is.
well, I was just thinking when we start packing arenas, we're going to have to hire Brooke to come lead some worship.
Oh, we got to
Hey.
have somebody.
Yeah.
I'd love that.
And I'm going to tell you what, man. I've been listening to Brooke's music on YouTube all morning. And there are a few songs that I listened to that actually was like welling up emotion in me. And so all the greats in music, all the great artists in music, that to me is the common thread.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a artist that can evoke emotion in the listener, that is it, man. And I was really surprised that it was the first time I had listened to your music. I was really caught off guard that it did that because I don't listen to a lot of female artists. I mean, I'm a Hank Williams Jr., Willie Nelson, all the old school stuff. And those guys, they could evoke emotion in the listeners, and that's why they were so great. Hank Jr.'s voice sucks. Yeah. I mean, his voice sucks.
Yeah.
Willie Nelson, we just talked about how ugly Willie was. Willie didn't have nothing going for him.
Yep.
He sounded like his nose was plugged up.
But he's a storyteller.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
he could pull out that emotion, and it was really cool. I mean, I don't know. It just like made me happy that you were coming here to the podcast today.
Well, that means a lot, honestly, because when I sat down with my producer and my manager, and I was like, look, I don't want to just write the next song for Christian radio. Like, I didn't feel called for that. And I grew up listening to, like, late 90s, early 2000s country music. And so that's what inspired me as an artist to really dig deep in stories and write that. And that's not what Christian radio is playing. And they told me very quickly that they weren't going to play this record because it was just too much of a story instead of what's being played on radio. But it means a lot that you say that, because it just means that it was worth it for me.
Yeah.
To really kind of go outside of the box, and no one's really doing it. And I definitely, as an artist, have taken a risk doing that, because, usually you sign to a label and you write the next song for radio, but it's just the same old, nothing against anything, but the same old. And I'm like, people are hurting, like the mom driving their kid to the soccer games, their little girl in the back seat's hurting, like I want to write songs for her, so that's kind of where I come from.
That's solid. Yeah. And so I'm in like complete and total agreement with you, because it's strange how, I don't know about the music industry. I've obviously listened to songs and watched my artists and listened to their opinions, my favorite artists. And it sounds like it's like a very controlling environment where you have to fit into a certain space. And I cannot listen to radio. Like, I'm not going to listen to mainstream music. Yeah. I get all of my music from YouTube, from artists like Tyler Childers, Whiskey Myers, these guys, even, Jamie Johnson in the beginning, these guys that didn't fit the mold. Another big artist that's broke out of that mold is Aaron Lewis, the lead singer for Stained. He's really broke out of that mold. And now I'm not promoting Aaron Lewis as his lifestyle and all, some of his music is a little rough, but he's really broke that mold. And that's what I like. And I think that's what people are hungry for. I can't even believe radio's still around with YouTube.
It's slowly, I feel like, gonna eventually dwindle off. I don't really know. Everyone goes to Spotify, or Apple Music, or all things like that. Yeah. But it's still one of those things that can make or break an artist. It's so weird.
Well, your average music today has the shelf life of a housefly. I mean, the song's off the top charts and nobody remembers that song, like the old Hank Williams songs and stuff back then of the good artists. People still know those and listen to them today. Nobody's going to be listening to Luke Bryan, Shake It Country Boy, or whatever that song is. And it's dead.
Yeah.
Well, I have to ask you, Brooke, are all of your songs, are they all like in the Christian genre, or are you outside of that? I mean, how's that?
So a lot of my songs are, but also they can kind of go into the country genre as well. Like, there's a song on there called See You Here. And I don't know if you heard that one, but it's a song I wrote about my great-grandmother. And, it has nothing to do with the Christian side of the industry, but I just wanted to write the song. After she passed away, she was 96, but she was just such a rock to our family. And one night I was writing, and this melody and some lyrics came up, and I presented the song to my producer. He's like, well, it's a little different, but, we'll see, kind of thing. And it made it to the record. And it's one of my favorite songs. It's kind of folk country on there. Yeah.
So will you, I'm going to back up in a minute and talk about how you got into music and all this, but will you eventually have to, I guess you won't have to if you just use your own channel, but would you eventually have to choose one way or the other?
I don't know. I feel like there's not many people doing what I'm doing as far as the storytelling side in the Christian industry, but also in the country industry, it's not many people talking about Jesus. So it's kind of I don't really fit in anywhere. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So it's kind of hard to choose a side when I'm kind of like a fish out of water.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of how it is.
Gotcha. So how did this all start?
It's a long story, but so I intentionally was going to school for occupational therapy
Okay.
when I was in college. I graduated in 16. I was singing. I sang since I was a kid, like since I was 11 or 12 years old. I was in the youth band. I did the slides, on Sunday. I was always kind of involved in ministry, but it was never anything that I thought I was good enough for, or even I knew that I had the capability of.
But when did you realize, like, and what made you realize, like, okay, I'm a little bit better than people like Chad?
Yeah.
Like,
So in 2016, whenever I couldn't get into schools, I was doing like covers and stuff on YouTube. I actually had some friends help me do all that. And then my producer now, he reached out on Facebook and he was like, hey, you should come up and write some songs. And like, you just never know these days. I thought it was a scam. And ended up being just legit. And went up, even when I couldn't get into school. I was like, you know what? I don't know what I'm supposed to do with my life. And so you never know until you just try, right? So I just went up to Nashville in 2017, and I wrote an EP called Have My Heart, and got signed to a label that spring, went on tour that fall, and wrote this last record in 2019. So it's just kind of been a slow but fast snowball effect. It's kind of cool to see.
mm-hmm.
But it's not that I'm doing full time right now. Like, I'd love to be able to do ministry and music full time, but I'm kind of at this place with God, like, if he wants me to do that, I'm all in. And if not, then I'm here and letting him use me. But I mean, I have a full-time job at home. And so I do ministry whenever I have the opportunity, and I take it.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a lot of work that goes into I saw the content that you have on YouTube. Like,
Yeah, it's not easy.
your videos are professionally, like, they're right there with any other big artist's
Thank you.
quality. I know what kind of time it takes to put something like that on, man.
Yeah.
So
the
you're
one
getting
for-
after it then.
Yeah, the one for Taking My Voice Back took 2 days. So, but that was a fun one
Uh,
to film.
oh, I'm glad you said it was fun, because I would have probably said it was exhausting.
Yeah, I mean, it was like, get up at 2 a.m., get ready, get your set at 6 kind of thing, but I loved it. I loved every second of it.
So you said like 11, 12 years old, you're part of the choir, you said, and doing things locally, and so you said in 2016 you started your YouTube channel. Was that right?
Yeah, 2016 I started a YouTube channel,
And you were just
covers.
you were just covering songs,
Yeah.
and just posting them on YouTube. And then this guy from Nashville hits you up.
Yep.
And says, come up. Okay. When you went to Nashville, what did you go there for?
So I went up to write. So
What does that look like?
So I like this, just in a room of people, and you just have ideas and thoughts. I usually would start off with just talking to the songwriters and them get to know me, and anything that's on my heart that day or something that I'd gone through, share it with them. And then it's sometimes a quick process, and sometimes it's not. Like, I've had writes last for 8 hours and we didn't get anywhere. And then I've had some last for 2 and we got a whole song. So it kind of just, there's no formula to writing at all. I mean, you'll get in, you may have a lyric, you may have a melody, you may have none. And what comes first is just kind of what comes first. It's crazy. It's fun, though.
Dang it, man.
Yeah.
Well, would you say, like, because if you go and you sit down in a room and you're trying to formulate this song and write this song, and you said there's been multiple times where you're in there for 8 hours and nothing comes out of that. Like, that would be a pain in the butt to me. I mean, is this your like passion? Are you just, does this like fill you up? Just the music and the singing and the writing, and is this your like true passion in life? Or
I love that you say that too, because this show that I had in Knoxville a couple of days ago, I was talking with a lady who was working my merch table, and she kind of said some prophetic things over my life, just saying that I don't think it's just music for you. And for me, over the past probably year and a half or even almost 2 years since releasing the record, I felt so heavy that it's way more than just singing a song. It's way more than just writing a song. It's ministry for me. And I'll get up there on stage and I'm not going to say I'm a preacher because I am not a preacher, but I will share my heart behind the song. And to me, that's ministry. And I feel like God's kind of leading me into the season of not just music, but also ministry as well and speaking. And that to me terrifies me because growing up, I would have never told you that I'd be talking in front of people. It's so much easier to sing for me because like I know what's coming. Like you know the words that you're going to say, but when you speak, it's like stuttering and all that. But no, God's led me through it. And he's really helped me grow throughout the season and really kind of find my voice. So, yeah.
Awesome, man. Blake, you got anything up to this point?
I mean, so when you go, I was thinking, like, what is it like when you're talking about going up for a write? Or it's just a team of people sitting around and you are all working together to write one song?
Yeah.
And is it inspired, like if you're going up there, is it inspired by you and they're helping you write the song on whatever's on your heart or mind that day?
Yeah, I have like this weird thing, and I don't know if it's just me, but I have a hard time taking songs from other people who've written because I don't have any connection there. And so for this last record, I just made a commitment to myself that every song that makes it to the record is going to be a story or an idea that I had. Because how else do you relate to people if it's not your song or your story? And so, yeah, usually I have some ideas and then I'll present them to the writers and then they'll help me make that into a song.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's so smart the way you are attacking that because stories are the most valuable currency that we have on earth, like in our lives. If you have stories throughout your life that you can hang on to, that you can, like what Brooke is doing when she goes in, I imagine, and writes these stories out into a song, you're basically taking that experience or that story from your life and you're molding it, you're trimming it, you're making it this thing that's presentable to other people in a way that they can understand it, take the lesson away from it, and like just take it on board, right? A story in the raw form, sometimes it's going to be way too long. It's going to be, maybe there's not enough there. Maybe there's a bunch of details that it's not necessary for them to hear. And that's what I do when I speak. I try to tell stories. And the fact that you're doing that with music is a powerful thing. And you're telling real stories too. Real stories. You're not telling some freaking love story about that somebody just made up because it sounds good.
Yeah.
Right? I can't freaking stand that, man. Like, man, I love it.
Yeah. You say that too because I don't ever, like, I want to write songs that are going to be relatable. You know, like, I don't want to just write this generic, Jesus loves you. And even though that's true, what if someone's listening that really doesn't have a relationship with Jesus? Because that's my heart, reaching outside of the church, you know, because you hear a lot of songs that talk about the same thing, but what are things that are going to really reach people who've never heard about Jesus? Like, and they're going to actually sit there and listen to it. And then it's going to spark conversation. And then that person may give their life to Jesus through that. Like, that's kind of where I come from as an artist. And even though it may be different, I feel like it's worth it.
No, well, it's cool that you say all that because I remember seeing, I think I'd just seen where you had liked a lot of stuff on the 307 page. And so when I was doing the social media, Chili does it now, but when I was doing it, I would see just a common thread of people and I would like just check them out. And so I started looking at your page, just seeing who you were. And then I looked at the YouTube page, and that was the feeling that I got, was just that like you weren't in this for money, obviously. And it seemed like there was a story behind all of the stuff you put out, and it was so genuine, and you have a good following on YouTube. So it was just cool to me to see, I don't know how old you are, but a younger lady that has built this on principles and put the work in, and you're still working a full-time job. And then I remember sending you the message on, I guess I sent it on Instagram or something.
Yeah, you did.
Asking you to come on, and I think you had just like it was like what seemed like it was within minutes that you had submitted your basic course
Yep.
application, and I had you did that, and then I had sent that, and I realized it after the fact. So it was just kind of neat. But I'm glad you say those things, because that was without ever even talking to you or knowing you. Those are the feelings I got just by looking at your channel and the stuff you put out. So
Thank you.
Yeah, that's what freaking being genuine. That's what happens when you are who you are and you're working within your passion. And we just did a whole call last night on Resurrected about how we, as the body of Christ, can interact and influence and impact culture. Okay? Here we have an example of how a Christian can interact, influence, and impact culture, right?
in a big way through it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, like, it's so, it makes me think, because when I tell people, the church, the body of Christ is failing when it comes to interjecting and impacting and having influence in culture, right? Like,
Especially in this day and age.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, and even when we look at this, and I was thinking through this morning, because I think people need like clear examples of, like, okay, I'm a Christian, I'm passionate about ministry. How can I impact culture, right? People outside of the church, they may not be they may not be Christian, but we still want to impact and influence what's happening in our community. Well, here is an example. If you are an artist, whether it's a musician or a painter or whatever, if you are an artist, if you have that gift, because that is a gift from God. I think in the Bible, who was it that was really good at music? Was it Jubal? I think it was Jubal, and I think he's the father of all musicians. I'll have to look that up. It's a gift from God if you can do things like Brooke does, or if you can draw something or paint something out. And if you can use that gift in order to portray the precepts, the principles of God's word, in order to portray Jesus Christ and who he is and how he's impacted you in your life, you want to talk about hitting culture right between the eyes. This is probably one of the most powerful avenues. Yeah. Right?
That's so true.
But it's interesting how Brooke's doing it, because there are a lot of Christian artists out there, and I think they come at it from a purely Christian angle. So they never really break out of that box, right? You see, there's a bunch of them. And so the fact that you can intermix the two, and like you said, you can write a song that's a story about your grandmother's life, but then you can also write another song about the way Jesus has worked in your life. You can do that. That's absolutely amazing. I just had to put that out there.
It's the difference in being a Christian artist or a Christian that is an artist, right? I mean, like, I think of Need to Breathe. I don't know if you like them or not, but they have plenty of songs that are not Christian. They're just like songs about things they're going through in life, and then some of their songs are about the Bible and the Christian life. And so I think that's what needs to be put out. And I'll tell you, in Christian music today, talent is lacking. I'm talking about, it's almost so pitiful on the Christian radio. I can't even listen to the songs. Just the music, it's like they strum the same 3 chords in every song, and they all say the same thing, and they have the same. I can't really listen to new Christian music.
It's hard to, because radio will look at, and not trying to talk down on them, but radio will look at, like, what the song starts off with, like what sounds, are there slaps in there, like certain sounds that are popular in Christian music right now, or certain wording. Like, you have to be careful how you word things, and like, instead of me, it should be you, like kind of as a group whole. And for me, I'm like, it makes it personal when you talk about like the things that you've gone through, but
Yeah,
it's opportunities like this though. Like I always say God's bigger than radio. I've always said that since the beginning. Like whenever I released this record, the world shut down. Completely shut down, and it felt like a slap in the face because I was sharing my story and my heart, and I'm like, God, you had me do this, and the whole world's going to shut down? Like, how's that fair? But I get opportunities like this, and to kind of go back, Blake, when you reached out, it was like that weekend before. I told my cousin, I said, the enemy's tried so hard to stop me, and like, I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to give up. And my cousin, he actually is going to be at the basic course in November, Dakota Smith. And he told me about the 3 of 7 podcast and like your story. And I was like, I got to follow these guys. It's so cool. And so I started following y'all and started listening to the podcast. And that weekend I was telling her that. And then I get a message from Blake. And anything in my life, nothing has ever been quick. Like God's really taught me how to be patient. And I've had to really learn that. But that was like, it was such a God moment. I'm like, okay, God really wants my story to be heard no matter what platform that's on, whether it's radio or a podcast or in the grocery store.
Yeah. Yeah.
and we had to reschedule this podcast like 3 times.
Oh
That's
my
my
gosh.
life, though.
I know.
That's how it works with me.
I know, man. Yeah, yeah, I know. I've been thinking about this episode for quite a while now.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's take a little break, and then we're going to come back. And Brooke, we've talked a lot about faith. We've talked a lot about Jesus and impacting culture and all this stuff. So I want to come back, and I want to have the opportunity just to hear your testimony, Brooke, and obviously you're passionate about Jesus, and why is that? Why is that? So I want to talk about that here when we get back from the break. I don't look at the calendar until usually in the morning when I wake up. I look at what is on the calendar for that day.
Probably the best thing to do, though.
I'm telling you,
you don't get
man.
overwhelmed.
Yeah. That's just the way I tick. Speaking of calendars, it's interesting. Blake sent me he found one of my old notepads from Bud's Basic Underwater Demolition SEAL Training. He found it yesterday. And here's where I had written out a schedule in 3rd phase of Bud's. This is why I take my days day by day, and I don't look ahead. This is the calendar. This is a day in my life as a 21, 22-year-old in SEAL training. This is how I grew up living my life. Okay. 7 to 8:30, Chow PT and Chow. Chow PT that morning was Al Huey. It was a big hill out back of the place where we were staying. 8:30 to 12, range. 12 to 1, Chow PT, Chow. 1 to 4:30, range. 4:30 to 5:30, nighttime swim, brief. 18 to 19, so I'm going military time now. Chow and Chow PT. 19:15, night swim to 20:30. 20:30 to TBD, dry fire, clean weapons. We literally get up, PT, eat, go to the range for 4 hours, PT, eat, go to the range for 4 hours, PT, eat, do a nighttime swim around San Clemente Island, come back, dry fire, clean weapons and gear, finally get to sleep. Day after day after day after day. And the whole time, in between and during all these things, you're getting beat down. You're getting hammered. All right? That's why I just learned to take each day for what it is and just try to get through the day, man.
Well, you'd probably go back to that schedule any day. It's much simpler for
Oh,
you.
my gosh, man. But see, people don't understand why I tick the way I tick. Blake gets frustrated at me sometimes because he don't understand why I tick this way. It's because they warped my mind.
Yeah. Goodness. That's a schedule, too. I mean, that's a busy day.
It's nonstop. From the time you get up to the time you go to bed, you're just getting beat down, hammered. You freaking got to do all this crazy stuff. Swimming around San Clemente Island at night in shark-infested waters. You know, that's just a day in the life of Buds right there. And that's third phase. I'd hate to see what a day looked like in first phase. I don't even remember. First phase was so busy you could only look at like what you were doing 10 minutes from then. That was all you could think about.
Well, I think that schedule said Al Huey plus 50 push-ups, didn't it?
Oh, yeah, it is. Al Huey plus 50 push-ups.
That was back when you could do push-ups.
I'll tell y'all a story about Al Huey real quick. Al Huey, okay, there was a guy in my buzz class named Rasher. I don't know if Rasher will ever listen to this or not. But he didn't like me, and I didn't like him. And so one day, Rasher was talking crap, and I had a big chew of tobacco in, and Rasher had just polished his boots, and I spit a big spit of tobacco right on his polished boots, right? And just ruined them. And so I wake up the next morning, and Rasher had filled my boots up with sand in the night, all the way to the top. And I got to put these things on and go run that morning. So I dumped the sand out of them. We get out to Al Huey. See, nobody in my buds class knew that I could run because I was always in the middle of the pack. I did that on purpose. Even if I was one of the best runners in the class, but none of them knew that. I've been with these guys for 5 months. None of them knew I could run. So me and Rasher, son, we were about to fight. We came together there at the base of Al Huey Hill, and I said, Rasher, Rasher challenged me to the top of Al Huey. I said, okay, I accept the challenge. The whole buds class is standing around. Everybody just knows that Rasher's going to win. All right? We take off up Al Huey, and I just obliterate him. And I look back, and the whole class is just standing there with their jaw dropped. Like, I can't believe that just happened. Because Rasher was always in the front of the pack. He was just young, dumb, and he had no restraint, right?
Yeah.
But that happened on Al Huey. I don't know if y'all think that. I don't know. That's just a story. That's the kind of crap that happened, man, out there.
I could see you spitting on his boots, though.
Oh, yeah.
You do crazy stuff.
I can't believe me and Rasher never came to fists, like a fist fight. But
I remember one day Chad and Brooke sitting on the front porch swing out front, and they was bickering, and Chad was eating a big bowl of Kellogg's Frosted Flakes, and he just turns and dumps the whole bowl of cereal on top of Brooke's head.
Oh my god!
I'm telling you guys, man, I'm my own unique crazy, man.
I have never met Brooke, but I feel like I know her. You know, some of those people you just follow on Instagram, you feel like know her. I feel like she probably wanted to dump it back on you.
Oh, they got into
she
it.
Retaliated.
Yeah.
She retaliated. I told Brooke last night, I said, Brooke is coming on the podcast. And she said, I know who Brooke is. So she wanted to be here, but she got tied up with some stuff. All right. Back to our guest here, Brooke Robertson. Welcome to the 307 podcast, bro.
I'm excited to be here.
So, dude, I want to hear your testimony. I want to hear why you're so passionate about ministry, why you even believe in Jesus. Like, it's kind of crazy to think you believe in a Jewish guy that said he was God 2021 years ago, and he went around, did all these miracles. They hung him on a cross because he said he was God, and they didn't like him, so they killed him, and then he rose again on the third day. It came back to life from the dead. It's hard to believe we believe in that.
Yeah.
Why would you believe in that?
Look,
that is what your testimony is supposed to explain.
You're so right. I mean, when we're quiet and we get out of the way, we can hear him. And so, man, it's gonna be a little story, but
we like stories.
Yeah, I'm all about it. So in 2018, I just got off a tour. Like, it was like a 2-month tour, my first ever tour, and I was at this like ultimate high as an artist. I had the bus experience and got to travel to city and sing. Like, how amazing. But when I got off of that, I had this pressure to write songs for the next record. And I felt so dry. Like when you do ministry and you're not poured into and all you do is give, you just feel so dry. And it was just that, it was a weird season for me. And I remember just praying, like, God, I need direction as an artist. If this is really what you want me to do, because I don't feel good enough. There's so many other people that sing better than I do. So many people are much better than I am. And God stopped me so quick and it's like, I've got a story that I want you to share, you know? And so I remember praying and just for direction. And the story that I'm about to share with you just surfaced. And like years before, it was something that I could bury deep down back again and like didn't have to think about it. But this time it wouldn't leave me. And I don't know about y'all who's listening or even you guys, but when it's God, like it doesn't leave you until you address it.
Come on, man. I'm dealing with something like that right now.
Yeah. And
send it,
it
sister.
makes us uncomfortable, very uncomfortable. And I remember just fighting God with it. But whenever I was around 10 years old, I was sexually abused. And I went through every emotion you could possibly go through when you've been through something like that, especially as a little girl. I felt dirty. I felt alone. I felt scared because my daddy always said if someone ever did anything to my little girls, you know, he always said that he would do something not good. And I remember just saying, like, I could never lose my dad. And so I kept quiet.
Yeah.
For years and years and years. And I remember as a little girl burying it so deep that I would just cry myself to sleep. And as soon as I'd come out of my room, no one would ever know.
Gosh, dog.
And, you know, they always say, look for the red flags in kids. And I never had those. I was a straight A student. I was a goofy kid. And I guess some could say that could be a sign. But I was just a goofy kid. I still can be. So I did a very good job at hiding that. And so 15 years, you know, rolls around. And God placed so many people in my life, pastors and just random people who'd share their story with me. And they never knew that mine was very close to theirs. And I remember this one pastor specifically. I was probably like 15 or 16. And it was like a Christmas event. And she stood up there and she started sharing her story. And it was very similar to mine. And I remember as a kid saying, I could never be that brave. I could never stand on that stage and share my story. Like the thought to me in that moment, I felt sick.
Wow, I bet.
And so, you know, 15 years rolls around and I find myself as a Christian artist and God's wanting me to share this story. And God knew, like, if it wasn't for music, I would have never spoken about it. Because it's something I always said I'd go to the grave with. I'd never share it. And so when I knew it was a God thing to share my story, I fought God for weeks and weeks and weeks. And I just had this unsettling feeling because I knew that it was something I had to do. But I have a big family and no one had known. And so that meant I had to go out and tell my family and my friends and then where I'm at in life, the world. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
It's a big deal. And I remember just saying, like, God, I need clarity. If this is what you want me to do, like, I need clarity. And so I felt, even though I had forgiven this person, I felt like I needed to reach out and just call this person. And so I did. I reached out and I said, hey, I just want you to know that I forgive you. But I've got to write a song about this, but I want you to know that Jesus loves you and he forgives you too. And it was that moment where I was able to share Jesus with somebody who hurt me very deeply, that just relieved all that pressure and shame and unforgiveness, like all of that. I felt so free. And that was the clarity I needed to go up and write this song. And so I did. I went up, shared the story with the songwriters, and it's called Taking My Voice Back. And for years, I felt silence to my shame, and like I felt dirty. That all kept me so quiet. And it transpired into my adulthood too. Like I felt like I never could speak up for myself. And so I have found myself to really speak up on topics that are controversial as far as abortions and all of that. Like that's something I would never really want to get involved with. But now I'm like, God calls us to have that voice for the kingdom. And we have to
come on.
have that bravery and boldness to do that. I think that's why I love you guys so much, because y'all are so bold and y'all aren't afraid to share the truth. People don't always like it, but so I wrote this song, and it's just such an amazing reminder that, we don't always realize how crippling unforgiveness can be, and it can really pull us and steer our paths in the wrong direction if we let it. And the enemy wants that more than anything.
Yeah.
But when we realize that that's exactly what he's doing, and we let God take all of that, and when we hand it over, it's like a slap in the face to the devil. And that's exactly what I wanted to do. Slap him in the face and send him back to hell where he belonged. Because that really is something that stole a lot. It stole my innocence, but it stole my voice for so many years. And I said no more. And so I'm able to go out and share my story and help others who feel so silenced by shame and unforgiveness and all of that. It's so heavy. We weren't intended to carry that. When Jesus died on the cross, he died for it all. And I've had people even ask, like, Brooke, how can you forgive someone who hurt you so badly? And forgiveness is not excusing what happened, but it's allowing you to walk free in the calling that God has placed on your life. And when Jesus was on the cross, he was being beaten to death, and I don't think it can get any worse than that. But he said, Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they're doing. So I'm like, if Jesus can do that, then so can I. So I'm going to do it, and I'm going to share my story with the world. So it's just been a blessing. It's been an honor, and it's been so freeing to do that.
Dang. Okay. Wow, there's a lot to unpack there. I have some questions. So I want you to talk me through, you talk about how, like, that process of forgiveness essentially allowed you to take your voice back. Like, what did that look like for you? Because like, there had to be, was there a definitive moment where you were like, okay, I have actually forgave this person, like, for this terrible act? Like, was it a definitive moment? Was it a battle, a process? What does that forgiveness process look like?
Yeah.
What did it look like for you? I mean,
That's a good question, because it's kind of hard to explain, but like over the years, it's something I became numb to and just kind of forgot about. It was one of those things, and for me, I had to vocalize it to this person, and it's not like that for everybody. It's not in the Bible to say you have to call your person who hurt you and forgive them. It's not. But for me, I needed that clarity. I needed that to fully forgive and let go. And it was definitely a process for me. And it's, like I said, it's really hard to kind of put into words because it was such a long, drawn-out process. I mean, it was 15 years of just kind of going over it through my head. And, like, it's a memory that hurts for sure. And it's something that, even though, like, the memories pop up, now that I've fully forgiven this person, it doesn't haunt me in a way. And I will find myself, too, just the memory will pop up in my head, even now, like, even after I've fully forgiven this person, because memories are there. Like, it's hard to fully let go of a memory. I wish I could. But I'll find myself, like, sometimes I'll be driving down the road, and this happened not long ago, that's why I'm sharing it. I'm driving down the road, and I feel my fist clench, and my eyebrows just, like, tense up in just disgust, because the memories would come back that strong, and they're vivid memories, and that's something that you can't erase, but it's your response to that matters. Are you going to let that into your life and create doubt and insecurity, or are you going to just say that's a memory, but I've been forgiven and I forgive and Jesus loves me? It's our response to that matters the most.
Yeah. That is the truth, man. Wow. I would like to understand, one, like, how did you work up the courage? Where did the courage come from? I mean, to be able to tell your family and the people that loved you that this was something that you had been living with and dealing with, because that's got to be scary to be able to come. I mean, even more so to me, it's got to be almost maybe more scary to come to your family and and say, hey, this is what happened. God's calling me to share this with the world. Like, how in the world?
That was the absolute scariest part ever.
Yeah. What did that look like?
I was more afraid to tell my dad. And I have a huge family. We have a really big family. I have cousins, aunts, uncles. And so I couldn't just get everybody together, and tell them all at once. But it was through that God really taught me how to share my story in a way that shared hope and not so much sadness.
Wow, okay.
And I realized that after the fact. But I told my mom, and then I told my dad. I told them separately. I remember talking to my dad. My dad was the hardest one. It was the hardest one to tell my dad because he's very protective, and I knew that he was going to blame himself for it, and my mom too. And I just had to reassure them that it was not their fault, because they always taught me as a kid, about that. Don't let anyone do anything to you. And when you're in that, you're stuck. I was stuck in a cycle. And I mean, I remember as a little girl trying to get out of the door, and this person wouldn't let me out. Yeah. It was one of those things.
Yeah.
And so I told them that it was not their fault. And I remember telling my dad this, my story. And I told him, I said, Dad, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Jesus, because they had me in church growing up as a little girl. And that's really what kept me rooted and grounded and not so lost. I was in a depression. I was, but it wasn't an obvious depression. It was one of those behind closed doors depression.
Yeah.
And so when I told my dad that, and that it really was them bringing me to church and keeping me involved in church that kept me here. And I told my dad that I forgave this person. And obviously he wanted to know who. And for me, 15 years later, don't feel like that's going to help anything.
Yeah.
And so I got a call from my dad, hours later. He'd been harping on it the whole day. He said, Brooke, if you can forgive this person, then so can I. And for my dad to say that was like, wow, okay, God's doing something not just in my life, but my family's too. And then I had learned that there had been many people in my family that had gone through something similar. So I knew that it was freedom for my family as well, not just the world. So how cool is that God wanted to use me for that moment to bring healing in just a whole nother way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's powerful.
Yeah.
Well, my next question is, you not only decided to share your struggle in order to help other people and help you through that process of forgiveness, but you decided to reach out to this person and tell them that you forgave them. I've never even heard of anything like this before. Like, that's next level, man. That's next level. And it sounds like you said that kind of sealed the deal for you. Like, that gave you some closure on that. So what was that like, and how did that person react?
Yeah, so I felt sick to my stomach before that, and I remember I got on a phone call with this person, and I just loaded out and shared everything, how I felt, what I'd struggled with those past 15 years, and this person received the forgiveness and apologized for what he had done. And it was a long conversation, because I got into talking about Jesus and learned that this person did not know Jesus. And I was able to just plant a seed. And that's all that we're called to do.
Yeah.
We can't fix anything, but we can go out and plant a seed in someone's life. And so that's what I did. I used that opportunity to fully forgive and plant that seed. And to fast forward, though, like a month or two before the record, this person reached back out, and they didn't want to call it sexual abuse. And that's something that a lot of people who have gone through abuse struggle with, is the person not wanting to admit what they had done was wrong.
Yeah, yeah.
And that right there, all those feelings came back like a month or two before the record release. And I felt everything again that I'd felt before. Like, is this the right thing? Am I doing the right am I making the right decision? Should I release this song? The song had already been produced. It was ready to go through, to Spotify, Apple. I'm like, do I tell these people like I can't go any further? And I realized like God stopped me so quick and said, Brooke, this is just the devil trying to stop you. And you can either choose to I'm not going to say cower down, but yeah, cower down to it. Or are you going to walk into this? Because I've got people that need freedom. And so I was able to get over that real quick and knew that that was just lies that the enemy was trying to put in and stop me, because that's all he wants us to do is stop. And so I just kept moving forward, and it was so worth it. So worth it for me. I was
That's
terrified,
a selfless story right there, that you would set all of that aside, because, I mean, it would have been, that one moment was so hard, you could have probably continued on. I mean, you would have gotten in worse and worse shape, but you could have kept stuffing it down and kept stuffing it down. But look at all the people. I mean, basically you've just set yourself aside and said there's a bigger cause here, and and you had the opportunity to hold back the record, to hold back from talking to that guy, from hold back to talking. So you just kept coming. It's like you had multiple things pop up to where you could have said, this is enough. This is enough.
And I mean, there's so many moments where I felt like that, but I recognized real quick that it was something I had to do, even though it made me really uncomfortable. And that sick butterfly feeling in your gut every time you had to go tell a cousin or aunt my story, like, that was just, it was hard. It was such a hard time. That was, to me, that was harder than going out and telling the world. Because these are people that have known me my whole life.
Yeah.
You know, like, I didn't know. Or, because I was like, no one knew. No one knew, and I was going to make sure no one knew.
Yeah.
But
it's interesting to me how, like, I think Blake just kind of brought up a point of how your free will comes into play, so that even though if Jesus put something on your heart, like he put on Brooke's heart, if he wants to use you and something that you have been through in your life in order to set other people free from that bondage, right? If he wants to use your testimony in front of the world, and he puts it on your heart to share that, like your free will is still in play. Like, you can still choose not to do that, and you have to be very intentional. You have to understand that Jesus isn't going to just like force you to do anything. This takes you working through that process and actually taking action and moving forward with whatever it is Jesus has called you to do in life, man.
Yeah.
It's not supernatural, right?
Yeah.
Jesus is the creator of both the natural and the supernatural, but we live within the realm of the natural world. So your free will still comes into play. And I don't know if people agree with me or not, but you using that trauma that you experienced in the way you're using it and the platform that you're using is detrimental to Satan's kingdom. Like, if you want to hit Satan and his kingdom square in the freaking face, you hit him on the airwaves, right? Because this is his area of operations. This is Satan's AOR right here. The Bible calls him the prince of the power of the air. And I would say his number one tool over the last few decades has been music.
Yeah.
That's been like his number one tool to essentially keep people or bring people into bondage. So you're hitting him in his on his grounds.
Well,
And I
yeah.
can only imagine that's why there were so many things, and even coming up to that final moment where you're like, this thing's ready to go hot, and he's still like throwing everything, even the story you told. I mean, that's the biggest thing he could throw at you is this jugger reaching back out to you and trying to pull that card. You know what I mean? It's like,
Well, God like can use any situation for good. We have to just allow him to.
Yeah.
Like he's going to give us opportunity.
Yeah.
We can either say yes or no. What are you going to do?
Exactly.
You know?
That's right.
That's what I've been over here thinking about the scripture. And God makes all things work for the
Yeah.
good of those who love him and have been called according to his purpose. And that's that. And, I want to comment on what Chad said, and then I got a question for you. But you think about music and really whether it's music that is worshiping God or not. Like if you look at a Eminem concert or whoever you want to say, what are all the people doing there? They're all raising their hands, and it's a form of worship. It's a matter of if you're worshiping God or if you're not. Music is a form of worship, and that's what, I've always loved music. I love music, but it is just it's much deeper than what people think it is. Like, you just have something playing on the radio, and you don't realize that input and how it's affecting you. And I don't know, it's just much deeper. I haven't been able to really put my thumb on it, but I know that music is much, much deeper than most people realize it is. But
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, was there ever a moment where you thought did you ever get angry or in disbelief with God that like, if there's a God, how did he let this happen to me?
100%.
That's a good question.
I can't tell you how many times throughout those 15 years where I asked God, why me? And I feel like that's what a lot of people who've been through something like this ask. And it's, God doesn't cause things like this to happen. Like, we live in a fallen world, and it takes really just to get to know Jesus on a whole nother level to realize that Jesus was killed. He didn't ask why. Like he knew that was what he was called to do, is to die on the cross for us. But it wasn't easy getting there, and that's like this life. Like, we're gonna go through things that aren't easy, and but yeah, for sure, I definitely have asked God why. But now I've learned to ask God what. Like, what are you going to do now? Because I know that you didn't cause this, but it was allowed. Now, how are you going to use it?
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I am. And life's not always fair.
How
It's
did you
not.
get through that time of like, why me? Why does this happen to people? Were you just persistent in your faith and praying and seeking God, or what?
Yeah, I think a lot of the whys came whenever, like, right after it happened. And so, like, I was around 10, and so I didn't really,
Yeah.
you hear things like, forgive, forget kind of thing. But, as a little kid who've been through something so traumatic, you have no other choice but to ask why,
Yeah.
and then I just kind of came numb to it and buried it deep down and almost forgot that it happened, and then it would surface and bury it back down kind of thing.
Yeah.
That was kind of my process of that. So
It's good. That's that's something I get asked a lot, by various people, just as like, if God has the power to stop these things, why doesn't he? And to me, I've just always thought like, we are reaping what the rest of humanity has sown. And I know it may not be in the right context, but I think of the verse that where Jesus sent his disciples out. He says, I'm sending you out as sheep among wolves. And if you think like that's us as Christian, that's really what we are. We are in a world of wolves.
yeah,
And we are going to have bad things happen to us because of what our ancestors have done. And just like you said, when those things happen to you, God can still use that situation that's bad and that is a result of the beginning of humanity and everything that we've screwed up. He can still use that bad thing that happened to you to make someone else's life better, or maybe not happen to them, or maybe help them get over or whatever. So
Yeah, I mean, it's easier to stay in anger. It's so much easier.
and it feels good in the moment.
Yeah.
It feels good to be angry, and I
Yeah.
mean, to go seek your own revenge. And
Yeah, I mean, even
In the
when I released the music video, I had people laugh at it, like kind of in a way of, how can you forgive that person? But I've also had so many people who are like, I needed this. Thank you. Like, I was holding a lot of anger and bitterness in, and even though it's easier to be angry, it's more freeing to forgive.
Yeah.
So,
I think the act of forgiveness is the most pure representation of Christ that we can portray in our life. Like, there are a lot of other things that you can do to represent Christ. You can give to the poor. You can preach the gospel. You can. I mean, there's a whole array of things that you can do as an ambassador for Christ to represent His image through your actions in your life. But forgiveness is the representation of Christ through the most pure lens.
yeah.
Because think about, what did He come to do primarily? He came so that we could receive forgiveness.
Yeah.
That was His primary mission. And I think about that in my own life, man. Like, as an ambassador for Christ, am I missing the mark on that? Like, do I really want to represent Him? And if I want to, I think in the most pure form, it would be by forgiving others on a daily basis.
yeah.
And when I really start to dig into that, and I hear your testimony, Brooke, and it just brings me back. It's so powerful, man, because it really makes me think about Jesus and the burden of sin that He took. Like, he bore it all, the sin of all of humanity. And the pain that you felt, the pain that He felt was magnified by an indefinite number.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know, man.
Yeah, it's just when people get angry at God or blame Him or say, oh, He doesn't understand. It's like, Jesus is the only one that fully understands. Like, He had to go through the hardest thing ever. So,
Yeah. Yeah, it's just such a beautiful, beautiful representation of Jesus and how we should strive to live in our day-to-day life, right? As far as ambassadors for Him. It's just a wonderful example of it.
Yeah, and there are no exceptions. Like, you can think the worst thing that could happen to somebody, you have to forgive that person for doing
that's
it.
Tough.
There are no exceptions out there at all. And if there is, then you have just placed an exception on yourself for how you will be forgiven, because that's what the Bible I'll forgive you as you forgive others. And so, I mean, this is terrible. This is among one of the worst things that could happen to somebody, that happened to you.
Yeah.
And you learned early on, I mean, at 15, that's pretty early, that there are no exceptions. We can't justify, we can't put parameters around things that people do and us decide, well, yeah, this is worthy of forgiveness, but this isn't. There is none. And, I mean, I would say, too, that a lot of times maybe you say that you've forgiven the person because you want to write it off. Like, you say, like, oh, yep, I forgive you. But in your heart, you really haven't. But you're tired of wrestling with that forgiveness thing. And so you just say, I'm going to forgive that person. I'm going to tell them I forgive them. I voiced the words, and so now it's done. But it's not a name it, claim it. Like, it's not like anything. It is something that has to come from your heart.
You don't even have the ability to do it on your own.
No. That's right.
That's the thing. A lot of people that are going to listen to this are going to say, maybe you listener have had a similar experience to Brooke. Maybe you have been abused or cheated or done wrong or whatever it may be, and you're sitting here saying, how in the world are you asking me to forgive the way Christ forgave? Like, yeah, I can't do that. And yeah, you're right. You can't do that.
Not in your own strength.
You cannot do it, man. And you know, I'm relating to this from a experience in my own life. So you guys know my wife is a former drug addict. Well, when she was in active addiction, there were, horrible things that happened. And like I understand forgiveness because of that experience. Mm-hmm. Because I have truly like literally anything that we went through as a couple during that time has been cast into the sea of forgetfulness. Yeah. It literally has no bearing on anything anymore.
Yeah.
And Jesus Christ allowed me to do that. That's the only way that I can explain it. Mm-hmm. I can't explain it. I didn't do it I didn't even intentionally do it. Yeah. I asked Jesus to help me and walk with me through this process. Mm-hmm. But there was never, like Brooke said, it was the process. I can't remember a definitive. There was never a day where I just said, okay, I forgive this person. I'm done with it. It was just like this long thing where finally Jesus released me and her from that trauma that we experienced as a married couple, and it's just gone.
Well, I think you said it well. Is that you still remember those things, right? I mean,
yeah.
But the difference is the memory's still there, but that it doesn't. That action that happened that you remember doesn't have any effect or bearing on a decision you might make.
Amen.
As to how you treat Brooke, as to how you operate as a family. So at that point is when you achieve forgiveness, in my opinion. Because if you were going to make a decision and you said, yeah, but I remember those things she did. Right. I'm not going to freaking do that.
Oh yeah,
then that's not forgiveness.
Now when I have those memories that are still there, when I have those memories, I'm just like, boy, that sucks.
Yeah.
Man, those times really sucked.
Or
like
where we've gotten now. You're like,
praise Jesus that my life is the way it is now because of him. Mm-hmm. Holy smokes, man. This has just got me fired up. I mean, it's got me fired up. And I think this is a piece. This is a big piece of our walk with Jesus as we serve him that really gets missed. It really gets missed, this conversation right here.
Yeah.
Because it's not a sexy conversation. Mm-mm. It is there ain't nothing appealing to anybody about what Jesus asked you to do in terms of forgiveness.
Yeah, who wants to set their feelings aside?
Oh, my gosh.
I mean, when someone has just wronged you, who wants to say, oh, man, I forgive you. I'm not going to be upset about that. Don't nobody want to do that.
Right. It's too hard.
Another piece of this, I don't know if you've ever thought about this, Brooke, but, we're surrounded by people now in society that don't agree with, not only don't agree, but see basically the biblical worldview and lifestyle, the lifestyle of a Christian, as they see you as a bigot, they see you as unaccepting. They just, they get angry at you, right? And these people around us are living these lifestyles that are totally illegitimate in terms of the biblical model. They're running businesses or whatever, lifestyles, whatever it may be, and I get asked the question all the time, like, well, how do you allow those people into your presence, like into your space? Like, how do you have conversations with those people and love them? And it's like another, I think, piece of this is coming to the praying for the ability to separate a sin or a sinful lifestyle or a specific sin from the person themselves.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, you kind of think too. I mean, Jesus sat at the table with everybody.
yeah,
You know, like that's what we're called to do. And we're not called to go and judge and hate and down that person, but just be real with them and say, hey, I understand. I've been where you are. I've been angry at God too. Like we've all been there.
wow.
And when you get to that place and just treat that person, like, would Jesus do that? What would Jesus do? Like, we hear that growing up as a kid, but it's just so true in this day and age. Like, what would Jesus do? He'd go sit with that person and talk to him. And I remember listening to your other podcast about the Hokas and the run, going to run with the LGBT community and all that. I'm like, Jesus would go run with them. You know, like we're called to go and love. And through that, they realize, hey, there is something different. What does this person have that I don't? You know, it sparks conversation and all that. So
there is such a fine line between like condemnation of sin because you love the person.
right.
Like you're condemning the lifestyle because the lifestyle will implode. The person's life is going to implode on itself. You love the person, so you're condemning that lifestyle because you love them. Like, I know, guys, this may sound absolutely insane to you, but I'm telling you, it's true.
Yeah, but
Like-
when you go loving that person, you can't condemn the sin openly to them, or else they're going to
Go
shut
away.
you out.
Well, yeah,
You-
exactly.
That's behind the scenes. You're loving them in spite of the sin that they're doing, you know, like, and they don't even know it. And to me, that's what this perfect love and forgiveness is that you just live it out in front of them. I mean, we talked about it on that podcast with the Hokas.
Yeah.
That's it, man. By the way, I was right. Jubal, okay? I was right. This is in Genesis. Jubal was the first musician, and he invented the harp and the flute.
I didn't know that.
Good on you, Jubal.
I'm telling you, man.
Just learned something new.
Yeah.
God's word has all the answers.
Yeah,
Yep.
it does.
All right, let's take a little break, and then I want to come back and talk more about the music life.
Let's do it.
Well, we're back. I have a few selfish questions, Brooke. So you mentioned earlier when you were out, like on tour, doing your thing, doing shows. You mentioned that dry feeling. Like, I feel that so often in my life. Like when you're on a stage or not on a stage, anytime you're giving of yourself and of you're giving, you know, especially when it's through a platform or a something that you're passionate about, where you're just really pouring yourself out. If it's a message that you're passionate about or whatever it is, yeah, it can really, really be tough to sustain that.
Yeah.
So, you know, I want to know how you work through that, how you maintain the pace, how you fill yourself back up.
Yeah. So I had led worship, or was actually on the worship team from like 12 years old up until like 24 or 25 years old. And when I went on tour for 2 months, I didn't get to go to church. I didn't get to be around a community of like Bible studies. And even though I can sit there and read the Bible, like to me, I needed community. I needed people around me. And I've gone to my home church in my small town my whole life. And I felt so heavily for some reason, which was God, after that tour to just step down from leading worship and really focus on my relationship with the Lord. And that brought me to a different church and not on a worship team, even though they had asked me to join. I just felt like that was not what I was.
Of course, they asked you to join.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, no. No, No, I don't want to, actually.
Wow.
I don't feel called to do that, even though it'd been so much easier just to go up on stage and sing, because that's what I love to do. But I knew that's not why God wanted me there. And so for a year I went there, and then I even now will sometimes get that way. And I have to remind myself, like, it's time to take a step back. It's time to really dig in the Word. And it's time to just focus on my relationship with the Lord, and not so, I think we sometimes get so stuck in our ministry, we forget who gave us that ministry. And we don't do that intentionally. We're human. We're flesh. And we get so busy. We get caught up in the hustle and bustle of life. And that's kind of what happens. And so, but God, he's always reminding me that it's, we need to take it easy sometimes. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to do when you're used to go, go, go.
Yeah.
But I went to a different church, and during the shutdowns, I was asked to join. And I did. But it's been a year later, and I feel that same way. I'm like, okay, maybe it's not on the worship team that I'm not meant to be there. Like, God's called me out, and when I go to church or when I go in a Bible study or whatever, I'm there to just soak it in. Mm-hmm. And that's been it's hard to find that, balance or whatever you want to call it, so yeah.
What other hobbies do you have? Things that you're passionate about that fill you up?
Well, things I used to do. I used to barrel race, rodeo. I love anything outside. I love hiking and all that. It's hard to do in Louisiana. I don't have much hills.
Yeah, yeah.
It's really flat. But it's hard to say I have a hobby right now, because I'm busy. I work full time. And if I'm not working, I'm going out and doing something with music. So.
Where do you work?
I work at an orthotic and prosthetic company.
Okay.
So we build prosthetics and stuff. It's really cool. It's a cool job. Yeah.
Well, it's very important. Blake has seen me in some dry times.
Yeah.
And I'm useless to anybody. It's so important to keep your own ship in order. It's like of the primary importance, because you can't help anyone. As a matter of fact, you'll probably hurt someone if you have some sort of avenue to influence people. You'll probably negatively impact them if you're speaking in that place where you're just empty yourself.
Well, think of the boat metaphor you used on Resurrected. If you got a hole in your dang boat and you're bringing someone on board to talk to them, they're going to go down with you because the ship's sinking. It's got a hole in it.
Yeah, how can we pour out if we're not being poured into?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which leads me to my next question. Who have been some of the major influencers, mentors, or helpers in your life, in your faith, or in music, or in both throughout your life?
Yeah. My mom's really been a huge rock in my life, and then her sister is like my spiritual mama, is what I like to call it. She's always that person I can go to, and she gives me wisdom, advice, holds me accountable. I also have a couple friends who are like that in my life. And music side of it, my producer, my manager, he's all one, but his name's Jeremy Holderfield, and he is the one who's believed in me from the start. He sometimes will believe in me more than I believe in myself. And it's good to have people like that in your life that are constantly pushing you forward. And when you're just in a funk, we'll just tell you, like, hey, snap out of it. Like, this is what you're called to do. It's not going to be easy, but keep pushing you forward, and it's good to have people like that in my life. And I don't know what I would do without any of them.
Mm-hmm. You made a comment earlier that was interesting to me. You said there are a lot of people out there that sing better than me. And I'm like, no, I've heard you sing. Like, what is what are you judging this off of? Like, your voice sounds perfect.
Well, thank you.
And like, how do you, because this industry is such a hard place to be in, like it seems difficult to get to the place where you're really just, whatever you want to call it, on top, where you're just, you're making the money, man. You're doing it. Like, people know who you are. Like, even the old songs, man. I posted a quote from an old Dave Coe song on the story that I posted you in. The Ride. If you're big star bound, let me warn you, it's a long, hard ride. It's like, this is a hard industry to be in. And so when you're surrounded by other very talented people in the same space, I would disagree. I would not say that they are better than you. I would say that they're talented individuals. Like, mentally, how do you stay in the game? Like, when you're looking around you and like, oh my gosh, these people are doing so well. How do you stay in the fight day by day by day and keep pursuing this?
Yeah, well, it's funny that you say that. Just to be completely real and vulnerable right now, I was scrolling through Instagram, and I mean, social media, if it wasn't for music, I'd delete every single bit of social media that I have, because it can be very destructive if we let it. And I remember scrolling through, and there were some posts from several different people, and I'm like, that would be such a cool opportunity. Like, it just seems so far away for me, you know. It'd be so awesome to have this opportunity and that, and have a #1 single, and doubt, comparison starts creeping in, and you don't realize that. And God spoke so clearly. He's like, Brooke, you don't think you can share my name where you are? And that really just, it made me take a step back and realize, like, God's got me where I am for a reason, and I'm not gonna let comparison creep in. Like, he's gonna use me wherever I'm at, and that's just how it's gonna be.
Yeah.
So
adjusting that perspective.
It's perspective.
Yeah. Man, that's some sound wisdom right there. And I'll be this, since you shared that about, you know, your journey in music. I mean, it's the same way for me as a, whatever you want to call me, a social media influencer, backwoods Navy SEAL wizard hermit. It's like, you know, you look around in social media and you say, well, there are guys with a similar background to me that are, you know, they have such a much bigger platform than we have. Their podcasts, you know, reach more than us. And it's like, man, that can creep in, but I also have to adjust my perspective quite often and go back and say, well, you know, we have and do help people where we are at.
Yeah.
You know, and we may not be reaching them by the hundreds or tens of millions, but we are helping people where we're at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And
I mean, I think about, you know, he who is last is really first, and really by you holding to your standards and who you are. Like, that's the reason. I firmly believe if we wanted to set Jesus aside and blow this thing up, I think we could be on top of whatever we wanted to be on top of. But because we choose to be genuine, and same with you, like, you have the talent. If you wanted to set your standards aside and go be a part of this big band or just sell whatever sells on the radio, there's not a doubt in my mind you could be the #1 artist playing on country music radio. But the fact that you set yourself, you hold to your standards, and you're really behind, you're actually making a bigger impact. So that puts you first. Like, for what you want, you're behind the gun. You're not #1. You're down here below everybody, but you're actually impacting more people than those that are playing the same song, the dumb songs on the radio, you know, like, and I mean, the same thing for us. If we wanted to impact millions of people, you know how you get to that point? You play off people's emotions and the political things, and you talk about all the hot topics that don't do anybody good but invoke emotion, or evoke, whatever the word is, bring out the emotion in the people, and then they're like, yeah, I want to go listen to that podcast. That gets me fired up. And then they don't do nothing about it. So to hold to your standards and to the Bible and put out what God's put on your heart, you're not going to be at the top of the charts, because that's not what the world wants. It's just the fact of the matter. But God will provide for you, and you will impact more people and affect the world more than if you were at the top.
wow.
And That's the way I think. That's the way I've always thought about it, and that's what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good thought. And I mean, a lot of people have overnight success, but a lot of people have to do the hard work behind it all. It's a slow build.
Yeah.
It's a slow build. And so, I mean, what's success? You know, like, what's our view of success versus what God says? Because, I mean,
That's a great question.
Yeah. It's like, we want this many followers and we want to go on these big tours. And although that'd be great, like, God's saying, hey, you know, you can share my name anywhere. It doesn't have to be a big stadium. It can be in the grocery store.
That's good.
You know?
Dang it, man. You know, good gosh, Blake, you're just, I'll just appreciate you speaking out on this podcast finally. He's never said much on a podcast, but, you know, y'all, I think I sound kind of dumb because I talk slow and I've got a terrible accent and all this, but I mean, I kind of play that to my advantage, but I did that all through SEAL training, by the way. And, but let me tell you, I know what people want to hear.
Yeah.
I know. Like, just like Blake said, I know what people want to hear. I'm smart enough to recognize that. And sometimes I fall into that. Sometimes I fall into that trap. When I see something and I'm like, oh yeah, that's what the people want to hear about, right? Sometimes I fall into that trap. But every time I fall into that trap, you know what I realize? The fruits of that, the fruits of putting out that message just because I know that's what people want to hear and it's going to cause them to react emotionally. The fruits of those posts, the fruits of of those interactions are never in alignment with God's word or with what I think Jesus would want me to be doing as his servant. It's really odd how that works out for me.
Yeah, and it never really, to me, I never really feel accomplished if we talk about things like that. I just don't really care to talk about it, because when you do,
you sure don't. You won't say a word about it.
No, that if you ain't talking about Jesus, there ain't no need to talk about it. And it don't always have to be direct, right? Yeah. But it has to, in your mind, you have to say, well, all right, this is tying it into Jesus. And if not, I just don't care to talk about it. To me, it's meaningless. And I mean, maybe other people see value in it in other ways, but no, that's just what I think.
I will get slap into a rant. I mean, I will get sucked into a rant. Here's one of my, I'd say one of my latest rants that I did. Let's see. Here's one of my, hold on, that's not it. I got to find one of my rants on here to show you about how, here's a rant that had nothing to do with Jesus. It was shared on Instagram 3,184 times. It's like the most shared, because it was simply appealing to what people wanted to hear. Mm-hmm. But if you go through and read the comments in this rant that I did here, it's nothing but negative bickering and arguing and complaining.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Man, I needed to hear this, this conversation.
Like the most uncomfortable we are is where the reward is greater. You know, like God always gives us opportunities where we can just do what people want to hear, or it can make us really uncomfortable and maybe the person listening uncomfortable, but the reward's greater.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. The eternal impact.
Yeah.
That you make, and you'll never be able to see it. You'll never be able to see the generational impact. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what you guys are speaking to.
Well, and I think Brooke said it best earlier, is that we can't be responsible for the becomings of anything that we do. All we can do is plant a seed. And if you can think of it that way, because a lot of times we get hung up and we want to see our reward, right? Like we want to see,
oh yeah, I
planted this seed and now look at the crop it has grown to be. But, and you know, you talk, you look at the verse about the heroes of the faith and how a lot of the stuff that they accomplished, they never saw come to fruition. They just did the work that they should have done. And then most of them got killed. And it's like they don't even know what they did, and all we can be concerned with is just planting the seed, and then it's like you move on to a new field, and you don't ever look back. Maybe somebody comes back through your life and you see it, but more than likely you don't. I mean, you don't often see that. Right. Sometimes you do, but you just move to the next field, and then you plant your seed, and you move to the next field, and you even plant it where the rocks are and the weeds are and all, all of that. Because maybe it takes root, maybe it doesn't. It's not for you to decide. You put your seed down and you move on.
Have you ever felt, Brooke, when you're out doing your thing, man, and you're performing, and has it ever been hard to stay grounded in like who you are in your faith? Have you ever who you are as a person and also who you are as a Christian? Yeah. Like, have you ever felt the pull to maybe drift outside those boundaries because of you're front and center, you're on stage, people are looking to you, like you're getting the attention?
No, I've never felt that way. Honestly, I can say that. I promised myself and God, me and God had a talk before I did any of this music stuff, that I would stay true to who I am and who He's called me to be, and not what the industry wants me to do or say. It's one thing that I promised myself.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
Yeah.
What is so like? What is your? Do you have? I'm shotgunning you with a question here. Do you have a vision? Like, what is your God-given vision for your life, your gifts? Like, have you thought about that?
Yeah, I have desires. I actually made a post, like, sometimes we have desires and we don't fully understand. They're so deep, we don't fully understand them until God reveals them to us. So, like, over these past 5 years, there's been things I thought that I was supposed to do here and there, and, like, God's slowly showing me. And just over the past year and a half, I felt like speaking is something that He's calling me to do. Writing a book. Honestly, don't even really read. But I feel like there's something that God's put in me, to a devotional for young women or something like that. I don't know. I'm in the process of planning a human trafficking event in my local community. I've never done that before. And that's challenging me. That's pushing me. And so speaking, and not just music, but speaking, and that terrifies me, to be honest. But I'm like, what terrifies us is where we grow. So.
Well, I want to encourage you. You are a very well-spoken person.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. You are a very good speaker. Like, in a lot of ways, practically, and your message is great. So, like, you can speak the message in a way that people, I think, will want to listen to you, because you're not saying all these filler words, and you're not getting it. All right, so I just want to encourage you with that. And it's funny because this morning when I posted on my story that you were coming on the podcast, I was like committing to releasing this episode. And I'm like, I don't even know who Brooke is. Like, she may be some crazy person.
Some
and then
weirdo.
And like the episode may be just something like oh my gosh, I can't put this out. And then people are going to be like, where's the interview with Brooke? But like,
it's trashed.
Yeah, it's like, you are a very good speaker. So I would encourage you to push forward with that mission. What's on the horizon for you as far as music goes? And
yeah, it's been very slow in this season that I'm in, just because with all the shutdowns and a lot of tours happening, or bigger tours, and just being that I am a smaller artist and not many people know who I am, it's hard to get shows booked. But I have been thankful. Like, I've had one probably once a month this year. And so I'll be in New York in 2 weeks, and then I'll be in Indiana in December. And then the next thing is I'm promoting a show, which is the first time I ever promoted a show. So a trafficking event, human trafficking awareness event, benefit concert that I'll be putting on in May. So
okay,
I don't know what next year holds. I am fully trusting God in that, and that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah.
So
I like that, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Go with the flow.
That's my style, son.
Got to.
Man, Blake, you got any more questions?
No, I think I've asked all mine.
Yeah. I mean,
That's a lot. That's a lot to chew on and think about in that episode. Really,
there is so much, man. There is so much. I feel like the main theme of this conversation, and I did not have any idea that this was going to be the main thing that I think the world needs to hear. But for me, it is the concept and the application of forgiveness.
Yeah.
And how this is the biggest lesson that I took from this. We've never done a podcast before on forgiveness, ever, and that's pretty unsat. Mm-hmm. All right, yeah. But it was obviously God was putting it off for you to come here and walk us through and show us what forgiveness meant, what it looked like, and to make us think about it. And for me, it has really changed my perspective in a sense of, I say I want to represent Christ. Well, the most pure way is through forgiveness.
Yeah.
And boy, that hit me square in the face.
Well, to me, it's quite obvious that this episode is going to be, and already has been for us, pretty powerful just because of, it just doesn't happen like this with when we book guests, like the deal where you had sent the thing for the basic course, and I had just reached out, and then we scheduled it. The hurricane hit Louisiana, and then I had put you down for some dates that were already booked. I didn't know. It's just like thing after thing after thing, and I remember even telling you in that message, like it'll just happen when in God's timing. Like as long as you're willing to bear with me and be patient, and you were right on board with it. Like, yeah, I agree. This is how things happen, and we'll work it out. So. I can't wait for it to get out for everybody to listen to. And
yeah, I'm excited about it too. And just to add, like, my heart too behind my story is maybe the person listening or whoever listens to this, maybe they are the one who's done the abuse. You just don't know. They probably feel like they're unlovable, they're unforgivable, and like that's so far from the truth. And Jesus died for you too, and He loves you too. So.
Gosh,
yeah, that's
son.
We could do a whole nother episode on that.
You never know, man. I mean, I think all of us are living with something that we've done in our lives that we need forgiveness for. Mm-hmm. And that's really, you're exactly right. That's a whole nother podcast episode, because I was listening to old Nimblewheel the other day on his YouTube interview, and that was the way he talked about how he came to faith in Christ and accepting Christ. Is he said, I didn't have a problem forgiving other people for what they had done for me. Mm-hmm. He said, I couldn't forgive myself for all the times that I was just being a straight up jerk in life. I couldn't forgive myself. And that's what I needed Jesus for.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You rarely hear it. You rarely hear it put out that way. Mm-hmm. But the fact that you need forgiveness for something and you just can't forgive yourself, you just can't let it go, that is pointing you to your Savior and your Creator and the one that loves you eternally, right?
Yeah, and when you don't...
Unconditionally.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. When you think, how could God forgive me, or I can't forgive myself, again, you are putting parameters on what forgiveness can be, what can be forgiven.
There's so much grace there.
Yeah.
Not to get off topic, my grandfather, he did things throughout his life that he shouldn't have, and he gave his life to Jesus on his hospital bed. Like, that's grace. He could have lived his whole life glorifying God, but he chose not to. But he did make that commitment, and it wasn't too late. God's not like, nope, you're too old for that. It's not how that works. He was dying on his deathbed and gave his life to Jesus. So,
man,
He's always there.
Oh, yeah. Jesus told us about that, right?
Yeah.
He told us about that in a parable. It's written down where he says there's this guy that owned a vineyard or a farm. And a guy went out in the morning and he said, hey, he went out to the street and he said, hey, guys, I need some folks to work in my farm down here. I'll pay you $1. So they went to work in the morning, right? Well, then the owner of the farm went back at lunchtime. Said, hey, we need some more people working in the farm. They went out and he recruited some more workers. He said, I'll pay y'all $1. Then he went out in the evening. There wasn't about an hour left in the workday. He went back. He said, what are y'all standing around for? We need some people up here working on the farm. I'll pay you $1. And so those people went up there and they just worked for an hour. And the work day was over, and everybody came up to him to get paid, right? And the people that had been there working all day long were pissed off because the guy that owned the farm was paying the people that had only been there for an hour the same amount of money that he was paying the people that had been there all day.
Yep.
And the guy that owned the farm said, that ain't for you to decide.
Yep.
I'll pay these people what I want to pay them. That's the way it works.
Yep. With man, you get what you deserve. With God, you get what you don't deserve. That's how it is.
That's a good point, though.
Yep.
Gosh almighty. Son.
That's how it is. And the other example is, you mentioned earlier when Jesus forgave the man that was also being crucified at the same time as him.
Yeah.
That man was put up there to die, and Jesus forgave him and said, you'll be remembered in heaven. And so there that man, just before he died, gave his life to Jesus. I mean, right there, right at the time, like,
Yeah. Yeah, this episode is definitely going to be titled something forgiveness. I don't know what yet. I got to think about it.
It'll come to you.
Yeah. All right. So, Brooke, where can listeners find you, follow you, listen to you, connect with you?
I've tried to make it pretty easy. So Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube is all Brooke Robertson music.
Okay.
So I have a Twitter, but I don't really get on Twitter. I mean, I'll just like repost stuff, but it's not my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Brooke Robertson music. And my website's brookerobertsonmusic.com. So pretty easy.
nice.
And, you've done much better job than me.
Some of ours are numbers. Some of are spelled out.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Some of my profiles, my name is spelled with 2 D's. Some of it's spelled with 1 D. Some of it, I've just went all. It's amazing anybody's found me on social media. I don't know what I had no clue. 2.5 years ago, I did not even know the word Instagram.
Seriously?
I seriously did not know what it was. I had heard of Facebook because my wife had a Facebook page that she talked to family in, but I didn't know.
Instagram's like where it's at right now.
It's
really not Facebook. I mean, people have Facebook, but it's Instagram.
I'm just saying you've done a great job getting the place, even your website. I mean, our mess is all over the place, but no, that's awesome, man. And man, I'm just thinking, I know a good musician now. We're going to talk later. I got to figure out how much it costs to hire you to come sing at some stuff, man.
Yeah.
I'm down for it.
we get some people together sometimes, and man, how cool would it be to have somebody there like Brooke?
Yeah.
Well, Brooke
love
in
that.
particular, that would be awesome. I'm super pumped.
Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for coming, Brooke.
Yeah, it's been fun.
It
It's
was.
really fun.
I guess we'll wrap it up. You guys go find Brooke, follow her, and reach out to her and let her know if you got anything from this episode. All right. Usually I ask you to share the episode. I will ask you to do that too. If you've noticed, we don't really run ads on the podcast anymore. We're not like saying that we'll never run an ad again, but we would rather put this out for you guys and ask you to share the episode so that the podcast can grow. But I would also ask you on this to go and interact with Brooke and let her know what you got out of this conversation.
And I look at all messages too.
I'm
I'm
glad
not
you
like
do.
that person that just deletes.
You're not like me.
Well, in your defense though, you probably get a lot, and it goes into like a hidden
Oh yeah.
thing.
Oh, yeah.
You have to like intentionally.
I
go
just
there.
gave up on it years ago.
Yeah.
I'll go through and gander at them every now and then.
Well, you
but-
still read a lot. You just don't really respond.
Yeah,
to
I
it.
do. I guess that's right. I do read a lot of them. I just don't respond to a lot of them.
It's hard to though, especially when you are busy.
The old social media, son.
Ugh.
Gosh.
Love it and hate it at the same
Yeah.
time.
Y'all thought that schedule that I showed you, that I read from third phase of Buds, y'all thought that was rough. No, that ain't rough. Like Blake said, I didn't even have a cell phone out there, man. Like, that was just so cut and dry. It's
Yeah.
Pretty easy to remember though.
yeah, it's like the social media stuff is mind-boggling to me.
You thought,
Yeah.
I'm going to work out, eat, and shoot. That's
Yep.
what I'm doing today.
Work out, eat, and shoot and swim.
Yeah.
That's all I got to do.
Yep.
That's right up my alley. All right, guys. Well, thanks for tuning in. We love you guys. Brooke, we love you.
Yes.
Thanks for coming and sharing with the body of 3 of 7 project. Nuff said.
It was an honor.